Hello, everybody. Welcome to Just Kira Davis. I'm your host, Just Kira Davis, live streaming to Twitter and somewhere on Riverside, I guess. I don't know. That's not a great mood today, but I did feel it was important. I wasn't really planning on podcasting until tomorrow. I like to do Tuesdays and Thursdays, but I wanted to get on the record about what happened today because I think it is proof of what I've been saying this whole time. Of course, for those of you who may be listening in the future, I'm talking about the Minneapolis ICE shootings. These are very fresh right now. It's only a couple of hours old, this news, but we've already had a press conference from the mayor of Minneapolis and the governor, both complete clown show, loser jokes. These people should be arrested for sedition. I don't even really know what that means, but inciting violence, there's got to be some political, whatever term to use for it. But we have been saying this whole time that this is only escalating. And we've been saying it from the beginning. I wrote an article on my Substack a few weeks ago, maybe before the new year. It was inspired by a social media post by a friend of mine. And it was after the shootings. Let us not forget that 2 Border Patrol agents one was murdered and one is still recovering. We're 50 crises beyond that now, but that's still a thing that happened. And, back then it was unthinkable, but not unexpected. But my friend said, remember where this all started. It started with a Subway sandwich. That guy, after the inauguration, I think it was in the summer, the spring, and that guy in D.C. Went up to the National Guard troops and he threw his Subway sandwich at them. I mean, I don't know what it is with libs and their Subway sandwiches. Like, Subway is a cursed brand. It's a cursed brand. Because not only do you have, Jussie Smollett, of course, Juicy Smollett, and the National Guard guy, but then, of course, Jared from Subway. I don't know. Maybe Subway should just close. They don't seem to be producing the best quality people out there, the best quality customers. I don't know why it is that liberals love their Subway sandwiches so much, but that's where it started, a Subway sandwich. And we kind of laughed. I laughed. We made memes about it. We joked about it. But some people on the right were saying we should take that more seriously. I wasn't one of them at the time, by the way. I wasn't one of them. Who was Victor Davis Hanson. He was saying, he said it then, the GOAT, and God bless you, sir. We're praying for your recovery. But he was saying then, if this does not get properly prosecuted, if we don't make an example of this guy, then this is license for this to keep escalating. And this is their end game. There can be no other end game with the left. There can be nothing else. It has to end in violence and war. It has to. They've already they can't walk any of this back, everyone. You understand? They can't. It's too late. It's too late. They're completely committed to this course. Completely. That's why I said yesterday, I don't think we should be about the business of persuasion anymore. I think in 2026, we should be about the business of crushing our enemies. These people are dangerous in the most complete definition of that word. People are dying now. And it's not because of those who are doing their constitutional duties. This is law enforcement. The Democrats are setting themselves up and their base up to view lawful activity as unlawful. And this all started during BLM. That's why it matters to say something. That's why it matters to uphold the law. That's why it matters to not get so caught up in race wars. Flying race is a perfectly acceptable thing to talk about. I spent a long time on my old podcast, talking about it. Everybody knows, very gracious about it. But no one took that grace, or not enough people. No one took it. And so, but back then, we were saying, you can't let these people go. But listen, let's rewind. What was happening in 2020 during the summer of love, the summer OBLM? Our churches were burning. Our towns and cities were burning. People were vandalizing property. Parts of Portland are still occupied. Parts of Portland are still occupied. An American city. Parts of Seattle still occupied. An American city. That happened in 6 years later. So BLM and all that movement, it desensitized a lot of us. B, it signaled to the loony left that all law enforcement is the enemy and it's acceptable to resist law enforcement by any means necessary. And then let's remember what people like Kamala Harris did. And isn't it interesting? Today we're talking about Minnesota, but Kamala Harris is really tied to this. Because remember when she bailed out a lot of those BLM rioters? She bailed them out. I mean, Kamala doesn't really have her own money, but you know what I mean? Somebody go back and find those posts. She stood up for the rioters. She defended them. She paid for their bail. And a lot of those people just walked free. J6ers tortured in prison for years. These people burned down neighborhoods, injured people, destroyed property, attacked law enforcement, and nothing. And it's not just an injustice, although it is an injustice. It's a stress test. It's a desensitization. It's to make your electorate more compliant through depression. Because those of us, and COVID, man, they really gave it to us. They really did. COVID was going on then too, and a lot of us were struggling to be heard and struggling to fight for our constitutional rights. And we saw what happened in 2020. And yeah, it was a rough time. It was rough. And what it does is it makes people pull back. You see that here in California. That's what's going on right now with the electorate, is that we've just taken so many losses and the Democrats have cheated so much. And there's this super majority and there's no way to beat it, seemingly. I think that's coming. I think this year, but there's no way to beat it. And Republican voters and sane voters, forget about being Republicans, sane voters just get depressed and they don't want to come out. So I'm always telling the Republican Party of California, part of your job is to motivate voters and reassure them that when they go to vote, their vote counts. So voter integrity should be one of the biggest things here in California. But just to focus on what's going on in Minnesota and across the country with all of that, they set this up then. So their base heard there are no consequences. And they heard all law enforcement are Nazis. And they heard from their leaders, Jacob Fry, Governor Walz, all the representatives, Mark Kelly, and they heard it's your duty to stand up to Nazis or unlawful orders. And there's literally nothing unlawful happening by definition when it comes to the ICE agents. But their narrative is this is illegal activity. And it's not. It's not. Even when you hear Mark Kelly talk about all this stuff, you can't, and he talks about he's throwing out ideas about resisting orders from the commander in chief. But when you hear him pressed on it, he won't be pinned down on what he means because he knows he knows that that's illegal to do. He knows that all this chaos has been sown and he knows that this has been the plan from the start. They all do. They're all in it now. Do you know what I mean? All of these statements that they have made since Inauguration Day to every crisis we've had along the way, including Venezuela, everything that they are saying is aimed at creating a lunatic left that believes that they are in a righteous war against the American government. War is no longer coming. War is here. And Tim Walz basically declared it. And then he kind of walked it back because he's a punk. What a punk. What a bitch. Excuse my language. What a punk. He scared me at first when I was watching that press conference because he came out pretty, I mean, not, heavy for Tim Walz. He still looks like a doofus up there. But he came up and, talked about how the National Guard is there and they're training. And he's given warning orders to stay at the ready. ICE needs to get out. We don't want any help from Nome. We don't want any help from Trump. We want them out. Those are declarations of war. But then what he did is he spent the next few minutes walking that back. Just so you know, I'm just issuing a warning. And the National Guard troops are already in the area anyway, training. They've been here for weeks. So, it's not that big of a deal. All I'm saying is I just want them to be ready and just, keep your ear to the ground. That's basically what he was saying. And he called ICE murderers. And he said, they're not going to stand for this and they're going to investigate and then people will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, whatever that means. But then immediately after that, his security chief took the podium and said, we're cautioning everyone not to speculate. We have to investigate. It was a clown show, but it wasn't just a clown show. That was on purpose. They were giving conflicting messages the entire time. Tim Walz would blame ICE and Trump. And at one point he did this whole, like, Trump's going to try to blame this on me. And then they bemoaned the idea of Americans being pitted against Americans. And if you're going to go out there, protest peacefully. If you're going to go out there, don't give them any reason to harm you or shoot you or arrest you. And one of the officials read, basically read them the Riot Act, their rights, what your rights are as a rioter. And then Tim Walz came back up and said, you got to get out. We have a moral duty to resist this, right? What was going on there? I'll tell you what was going on. That was a carefully crafted press conference. Yes, it was a clown show. It was a carefully crafted press conference to create two different narratives for two different silos, right wing and left wing, right? So basically it's for the base, right? Saying, get out there, basically saying, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, get out there and raise hell. And then for the media saying, no, what? Look at all these clips of me saying, don't be crazy. Don't be peaceful. Don't give these people any reason to be violent. Here are 3 10-second clips of me saying that. And then we here on the right will go, well, here's him saying that he'll deploy the National Guard against ICE. They know that the media is siloed. That has also been an operation from the start. It matters. All of this matters. I wish everybody would stop just picking at one thing or the other and understand that this is a holistic picture. And Trump said so he's always talking somewhere yesterday, but he said that. He was talking about Venezuela and getting all that oil, which, yes, we should have that. Why not? We just freed their country. Give us the oil. But he said that yesterday. If we want to make permanent change in America, then this is going to be a top to bottom operation. Because they've been doing this to us for decades now. So yeah, it matters that on Monday, the Corporation for Public Broadcasting was dissolved officially. So no more public funds for PBS or NPR. Those outlets are still out there locally, but now they'll operate on state funds and donations. That matters because that was a huge vehicle for disinformation. Ugh, I hate even using that word. That was a huge vehicle for propaganda. Another thing that Walz and Fry both said today on purpose. They both said it. They both said the word propaganda. Listen for that word come out of Ilhan Omar's mouth and other Democrats, but those 3 specifically. We've already heard Walz and Fry say it. Propaganda. Don't believe the propaganda. Do you see what they're doing? They're saying, don't believe the propaganda. Anything you hear coming out of the government is going to be propaganda. Then Walz gets up and gives completely conflicting statements in the same press conference. Protest, but protest peacefully. Don't cause trouble and let them do their jobs. And then you have a moral duty to raise hell against these Nazis. One is for the mainstream press, the legacy media, to fawn over and say, look, he's not so bad. And the other is the honesty. The other is for the base. It's a trigger for the base. It's war. I've been saying it for months now, and others have been saying it longer. But I think we're in it. Again, you go back to BLM, but even I would say it started before then. I'm old now, old enough to remember Occupy Wall Street, because I covered those protests. I was in some of those, covering them, not participating. The stench was really strong. You couldn't really stick around very long. Like, those people were ripe. I mean that. I mean that. But I learned a lot. That was my introduction to the blogger scene. We called it the blogosphere back then. That was my introduction, and I learned a lot. And I learned a lot about how organized protests work. And Soros was working even then in the Occupy Wall Street movement. And I can remember being in a protest that went from day to night. And I'm a new blogger here. I'm brand new to this business. This is like my first big deal that I'm at. And I'm hanging around. Nobody notices me because I'm black. So most people just would leave me alone and let me observe. And I'm kind of hanging around the occupiers at the time we were calling them. And as the sun set, the signs came out. A lot of these people were like young college students or home. A lot of them were homeless people. I think they were just getting paid to be out there and hold signs. They sort of went away. And then this whole other group of people came in. And they came in. They were shipped in. They came off of buses. Some of them I didn't see where they came from. They just came from different directions. And they it was a different vibe and a different crowd. And then it popped off and the riot police came in and they cuffed some of these people and hauled them off. And there was one guy standing just a few people away from me. He was a young man, maybe in his early 30s, and he was dressed like a businessman. He had on a suit jacket. And one of the rioters who had her face covered was asked, saying they took Johnny, or I don't remember what this kid's name was, but they took Johnny, they arrested him. And he said, "Don't worry, we already have lawyers at the jail. We're prepared for this kind of thing." That was in 2011, 12. They were and so also all this stuff is connected. Oh my gosh, my brain's working a million miles a minute. All this stuff is connected. So the feds are here in California investigating the homeless industrial complex. Gavin's shaking in his boots. This is like one of those daycare scandals. It's definitely going to pop off here. One of the reasons that the homeless epidemic is so bad here in California, but also across all blue cities, is the Occupy Wall Street movement. Because during that movement, one of the things that these people were doing, they were setting up shop, basically what they did in Portland and Seattle. They were setting up shop in parks, in front of city halls, everywhere. And they were setting up permanent communities. Again, they were doing what they were doing in Portland and Seattle. And so a lot of politicians were exercising the public camping ordinances to keep these people in check. And then when woke got to government, what they did during the Occupy days to help these protesters, what Obama did at a federal level by encouraging and releasing memos, and then what all of his local cronies did is they lifted the public camping laws. And they did it for the occupiers. But when the Occupy movement petered out, or it didn't, in my mind, it never petered out, it just shifted to Antifa, then they never reinstated the public camping ordinances. Now you're seeing some states start to do that. They did it in LA, I think, because City Hall was a homeless encampment. And that's what happened. That's why our parks are homeless encampments, because of Occupy Wall Street. This whole thing is to depress you. Then you don't bring your kids there and you're sad and life sucks and your taxes are high and you can't afford your car, can't afford a home. And Democrats win no matter what you vote for. It seems like you get more of the same. And maybe you just stop voting. Maybe you just stop participating in the process because you feel like it's useless. You feel like it's hopeless. Even back then, it was starting. I mean, I'm sure someone older and smarter than me can draw it all the way back to the 60s and the 40s. Tale as old as time. We didn't start the fire. It's war. And we can no longer look at it as just disagreements. And the Democrats are now committed. To my mind, it's obvious after hearing Walz and Fry and watching all of the Democrat reaction to this, there is not a single person trying on that side, trying to calm the situation. Not one of them. And that's dangerous. That is a call for revolution. And more people are going to die because it's war. And people die in war. That's why people are dying. I'm going to say it again. I think you should be armed if you're not armed. I'm not saying you should have a concealed carry or that you should open carry, or that's all up to you. But I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I think it is going to get better. And I think you should be safe. Maybe where you live, probably nothing's going to happen. I don't really feel concerned about where I live, but maybe where some others of you are, it is, smart to have a way to protect yourself against the loonies. Look, I'm going to drop a story. I'm going to drop some clips today in just a little bit on my new show that's where we got up and running this year, The Orange Report. And that's an Orange County based news and opinion show for the locals. And I interviewed Mayor Steve Knobloch. And I've been hanging on to this interview for a couple of weeks. And I felt bad about that because I know he did it and he was anxious to get it out, but I didn't like how it looked at first. Anyways, after the events of today, I just realized, no, this is a huge story and everyone needs to know we need help. In San Clemente, we have been, I don't live in San Clemente, but I live in South Orange County. Mayor Steve Knobloch, excuse me, is the mayor of San Clemente. It's a beachside community in South Orange County. And as Trump's border closures have been successful, extremely successful, the irony is that our beach cities have been inundated with Mexican and other illegal aliens crashing the beaches. And San Clemente is on the front lines because next to it is Camp Pendleton. It's a Marine base. It's 25 square miles, something like that. So, when they come up through, along the San Diego coast and then they, you know, the mayor puts it, they hang a 90-degree angle and come into the San Clemente beaches. And these are tourist beaches. These are family beaches. These are beaches where they land in the morning. They land in the middle of the day. I'll have video for you. And they run to waiting vans that are waiting on the streets of San Clemente, a beachside family community. And it happens all the time. And when the mayor went to the state and said, we need to do something, the community is threatened, the state said, you can't do anything. We're a sanctuary state. And when the mayor he came up with a very clever, you'll have to watch the report to see, but he came up with a very clever solution, at least one idea for using what the city already has available in their cameras to help citizens alert to some of these beach crashings. Because again, these happen in the middle of the day. San Clemente is where the Olympic surfing is going to be. Everybody, this is a huge story. The Olympics are going to be in San Clemente in 2 years, and illegals are crashing the beaches every month. Dozens of incidences every month. While children are there, the surf camps all go there, the swim teams train there. It's a residential beach, and the state won't let him protect the beach, and they won't cooperate with federal authorities to protect it. And when he came up with a workable solution that was low cost, the city council rejected it, and the loony progressives from his neighborhood came out to protest. We shouldn't be doing anything. These people are just looking for a better life. So he's basically had to go behind the state's back and work with Border Patrol himself directly to get help from the feds because our state won't help. And this is how you get situations like Minneapolis. This is how you get it. So everywhere where we see leaks like this, everywhere where we see danger like this, everywhere where we see the people of America, the people of our state and our cities being ignored and their needs and safety concerns being ignored, we need to sound the alarm or more people are going to die. And let me tell you something about San Clemente. It's not like Laguna Beach, which I know a lot of y'all out there, that's what you think of when you think of our beach cities. Those people are a lot more based down there, and a lot of them stay strapped. You know what I mean? They are blessed to have a mayor who is working for them, but he is working against his own government. It's war. And some of us are behind enemy lines. I'm going to be talking about that. The show's called The Orange Report, and you can follow it here on X at Orange Report. OC, everywhere actually, Orange Report OC. We just did one episode before the new year, but we're going to do a launch party next month, but we're launching episodes and clips this month. And I do think that everyone should pay attention because there's a lot of small town mayors out there who are under duress and they're fighting the battle alone. And there's not enough Nick Shirleys in this world, not yet. But maybe if we talk about these things, we'll inspire more. Nick is here in California right now. He's down in LA County. I'm sure he wishes he was back in Minnesota right now to cover this, but Nick, hopefully you'll stay put. We need you here. There's more fraud to be uncovered. What's happening now is it's not grossly irresponsible. It's not poor leadership. It's not selfishness. It's not even corruption. It's war. Their entire system is coming down. Everything's connected. Everything is connected. All of these issues that Americans have been saying are their top issues, from health to the border to the economy, to gas and oil, to foreign interests, all of those interests collide. And they all seem to keep meeting in the same spots. So I believed President Trump when he said, if we want to make America right again, we've got to attack everything. At the same time, we've got to do everything. The oil, the tariffs, the border, the economy, family planning and savings accounts, and all of that. All of it. And yes, the propaganda, right? But like the government's been engaging in their own propaganda, If you go to DHS or you go to the White House or the Border Patrol, I love that they do that sort of old school recruitment posters, Uncle Sam, that kind of stuff. There's a reason why we use those images in the first place. They worked. They motivated people. So government should be in the business of some kind of propaganda, but it should be patriotic, obviously. It definitely shouldn't be encouraging citizens to injure or resist law enforcement efforts, constitutional law enforcement efforts. And you'll notice this is another thing that the left keeps doing. They keep using the word constitution, but they won't quote it. And when asked, they won't pin you down, or you can't pin them down on anything. They know what they're doing is what I'm saying here. It's not malfeasance or corruption or bad leadership. They know what they're doing. And they've been doing it for a long time. And we didn't notice. And now we've noticed, but they've been doing it for so long that everything they have is wrapped up in it. All the money, again, I've said this before. Why do you think Hunter's out there all of a sudden? He's hawking a book. He's on the apology tour, whatever. He's going to run for office. All they have is politics. These people aren't rich. They're just influential. They live paycheck to paycheck because, of course, they're idiots who live outside their means because they're selfish and hollow. All of these people live paycheck to paycheck. They're leveraged out their asses, and they can't afford to miss one. And many of them have already missed a few, thanks to Doge. It's their entire future. It's all of their power, all of their influence, and it's their future income. Yes, of course it's war. If someone was coming to take those things from you, wouldn't you fight for it? I feel like I've been up in my higher register way too much this podcast. I apologize for that. I'm very concerned. I was concerned when I was listening. I've been listening to Victor Davis Hanson ring this bell for a few months now, and I was hoping he was wrong. But you should never doubt the GOAT. President, I do think there's hope here. I really do think 2026 is going to be a great year. I actually do. But this is very serious, and it is going to get more serious because Tim Walz basically put out a call to arms. And the Democrats are doing that. But I do think that this is going to be a good year. But, and maybe I'll talk about this more. I want to kind of get going now, but maybe I'll talk about this more in the future. A lot of people, especially the contrarians out there, the conservative contrarians, a lot of people out there say, well, we can't, how do we possibly deport 20 million or 30 million or 40 million people in 3 years? It's just impossible. I never understand why people say that because I'm like, okay, but shouldn't we just try? I mean, okay, it might be impossible. Are you saying we should just not? I don't understand. But a lot of them are saying, how can we do this? How can it be possible? And I think it is possible. And and what I've seen unfold in Minnesota this past week, I see that this is the way. This is how it will happen. It won't be ICE that deports 20 million people. It won't be Border Patrol that finds every, escaped criminal. And it won't be Nick Shirley who finds every instance of fraud. It'll be you. It'll be me and ICE and DHS and all, the big guns will do their work, but you'll do yours as well. We've already seen, we've got citizen reporting. Now everyone's a reporter. Everyone's got a computer and government records are online. I do think 2026 is going to be a big year. But yeah, I know where it's going. You're going to make the phone calls. You're going to do the reporting. You're going to be, I mean, everything in me just cringes at this word because we're not supposed to do this. But you're going to be the snitch. You're going to turn in those employers who are using illegal labor. You're going to call when you see the migrant camps pop up near you. You're going to make the phone calls. You're going to call the tip line. You're going to call the government tip line that was set up. I think it's childcare.gov that was set up to report phony daycares and entitlement fraud. You're going to be those people. And no, you're not going to be Karens. Karens are liberals. All Karens are liberals. You're not going to be Karens. You're going to be patriots. You're going to be soldiers. Everyone is in this now. This is what this book is. And this book is 4 years old. Again, thank you, Dan Bongino, for endorsing it. A no holds barred battle plan for conservatives. That's what Dan Bongino called it. And that's why I wrote the book. The book is about how you need to, and that was in 2022. You need to get in where you fit in. You better pick a lane and figure out how you can be a part of this battle right where you are. And it might be running for office, or it might be having a podcast, or it might be just sitting at your computer and checking on the daycare center reports in your area, or going to the library and seeing if there's any weird books in there. You know what I mean? Everybody's a part of this effort. That's how you get this job done. That's how you get the job done. When this is over and we really get to maybe settle into some kind of steady golden age here, we need to think about what it means. We need to think about what it means really to be part of the process. I'm sorry to pause. My mind is running faster than my mouth can work, which is another sign that I need to get out here because I got other things going on. But all of us are guilty of this. I think almost all of us. I mean, a lot of us in media, of course, this is our job, but I think most of us are guilty of this. Either locally or nationally, we're guilty of taking our eye off government. And you know what? We forgot that a government that is for the people, by the people, has to be monitored by the people. If you stop paying attention to what your government is doing, it will run off the rails. There's nothing else that can happen. There's no such thing as virtuous government. There are only virtuous people. And really, this is, again, to go back to how all this is working together. And it's one big operation, one big plan, one big battle plan is what I mean. Not like PSYOP, a battle plan. Is that the media has been setting this up forever too, setting up the silos, setting up the false narratives, telling us not to believe our lying eyes, telling us that they're doing the job for us. They're monitoring stuff. You don't need to worry about that. Remember when New York Times said, we're not going to cover Trump's remarks live anymore because you need context. You don't worry about that. Just let us worry about how to interpret his remarks, right? Everything has been encouraging us to look the other way. They have separated us even from the media cycle, right? We can't even trust the media, which is supposed to be there to be a watchdog, supposedly. Separated us from our healthcare. They've given us this weird insurance system that has nothing to do with healthcare, but now we're all chained to it. COVID came along. We didn't know how to take care of ourselves. Didn't even know that we could just go outside and breathe fresh air. We were separated from our own security. In states like mine, we're told we need to be as far as possible from our own modes of security, from our own Second Amendment. And we have gun control laws all over the country, even though those are ostensibly illegal right now. We've been separated from our own defense. We've been separated from our own voting process. Everything they do is to make it easier, right? Along the way, motor voter laws and extending voting hours, and then extending voting centers, and then extending voting days, early voting, late voting. California, you can vote late. And then, of course, mail-in voting. Further and further and further separating us from the value and sacred nature of our ballots. Everything they've been doing to us for decades has been separating us from being an engaged citizenry, separating us from all of the industries and all of the segments of society that control our lives or that make our lives better or worse, law enforcement, all of it. So it's time for us to start taking a lot of those things back into our own hands. We really should be thinking about the food pyramid, and we really should be thinking about what we're buying at the store and what we're eating. And we really should be thinking about the vaccines that we're putting in our kids' bodies and putting more consideration into them than just going to one doctor and hearing them say, yeah, these 40 shots for your infant are fine. And maybe we should start, helping each other locally, get to those farmers markets. If you're a nurse, offer your suture services in the neighborhood. Why should I go to the emergency room and pay $10,000 for stitches and an IV when maybe a nurse on my street could do the same for $100 and a bucket of Popeyes? We're going to need to reframe who we are as Americans to go into this new golden age successfully. And we're going to have to just win this war. I don't know what that looks like. Better minds than my own are working on it. Thank God. Nobody would want me running America, that's for sure. And don't worry, I can't. I'm actually was born in Canada, so I can never run America. But maybe I could run California someday. But no, there's a lot of people waiting for that job. But everybody's got to get in the game. And I think I'll just end it there. Draw your line, decide where it is that you can be effective. And again, it can be big or small. It can be as small retired moms. It can be as small as stuffing envelopes for that candidate that you love or hosting a homeschool pod for your local little ones. You know, think outside the box, think bigger, think revolutionary. All right, everybody. Well, we've got a lot more information to come in about what's going on in Minnesota. I do like Tim Walz, but I want to caution everybody to jump to too many conclusions. But to my mind, I've seen the video. To me, it looks like a good shooting, but it wouldn't even matter if there were questions, to be honest. This whole situation was brought about because the left has declared war on the Constitution, law enforcement, and the average American citizen. They are our enemy now. And so there's no more persuasion to be had. We just have to win. All right. Follow me everywhere, do all the things, put your thoughts in the comments, and I will see you. I'll be back tomorrow.